What's good, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into the Writer's Room. This is where we do recaps, reviews, and reactions. Today we are recapping episode 10 of P-Valley called Mississippi Rule. And this was the complete opposite of Mississippi Rule. We start off the episode with our girl Autumn Night looking hella crazy because her and Dre were just caught, cuddling and kissing with the great value Michelle Obama. And of course, she has every reason to be upset. And she turns to Andre and basically asks him, is this his get back? And she turns to Autumn and is like, you've been messing around with this light bright. And Autumn still looks crazy. She has lipstick smudged. I think she pretty much took an L on this one. But Andre tells his wife that, yeah, this is kind of it. And I'm in love with Autumn Night. Now, we've been waiting to hear this entire time because he has been messing with Autumn Night emotionally and now physically through this season. So I'm glad that he finally came to that realization. Now, his wife also asked him, why didn't he just be upfront about his dad? And I still don't see the reason why he hid this from her, but apparently she was a little bit uppity and snooty, and this would have completely turned her off, and she probably wouldn't have married Andre if she had known about his dad being imprisoned. Now, Corbin does come in, and Corbin is lit off that white liquor, and he's basically turned up because Andre's numbers are looking high, and it looks as though he is about to win this race. But we go back, and we see Lil Murda. He's still at the club. He's in the mirror. He's challenging himself and he's seeing all of the different past versions of himself. He assesses himself in the mirror and realizes that he wants to be Big Murda. He wants to be LaMarcus. So he takes out his grill and he is ready to start this show. But before he does, he looks around the club. Wody is like, okay, when are you gonna start rapping? Basically, Murda says cut the music, and he starts the rap. He starts the song a cappella, and he's looking Maine dead in his face. And Maine at this point realizes that not only does Lil Murda have something to do with Pico's demise, but Pico's demise was made at the hands of Murda. You see that Murda is speaking the rap, and in the rap it does say that I took someone out and I am not mad about it. I'm not losing a wink of sleep. I don't care. And Maine is really upset and even more upset to see Mercedes up there doing her thing. As you can see, he is super salty, you guys. But that did not stop Murda, and it did not stop Mercedes. Mercedes is finally completing her last dance. And Brandy Evans, the actress who plays Mercedes, did a amazing job. I mean, she was phenomenal in this. And Murda, of course, J. Alphonse deserves all his roses because this scene was a shutdown. It literally shut the place down. So that was a fun scene. Next, we have Patrice Woodbine. We see that the church is praying over Patrice Woodbine. We see Andre finally walks outside. I mean, and he is happy because he thinks he's about to win this race. But then we receive a phone call from Kyle Wayne, and Kyle Wayne is congratulating the mayor-elect. And we are thinking that Andre is on the phone with Kyle Wayne, and it is not. Kyle Wayne is on the phone with Patrice Woodbine, and we are told as the audience that Patrice Woodbine is the mayor-elect of Chucalissa, and Andre was actually on the phone with Autumn Night, and she was just breaking the news to him. But let's travel back to the Pink, where Mercedes and Murda just got off the stage, killing the stage, okay? And we come in and see that Uncle Clifford is crying hysterically. I was afraid on this part because I truly thought that meant Granny Ernestine was not going to make it, but it was actually the complete opposite. And Uncle Clifford says that Granny Ernestine did not drink the water. She did not take the drink away from the ancestors, aka his mom. So this was a good thing. Next, we have Autumn Night briefly doing a narration over Mississippi. She is getting things ready, and she looks inside the trunk of the car that Autumn Night has set up for her, and it is money in there. It's Prada bags. I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Autumn really thought she was about to come up on a $10 million deal, but we see that Mississippi, aka Keyshawn, is happy, and we know how that story ends, but wait, we'll get to that later. But first, let's circle back over to Uncle Clifford and Lil Murda. And we have Uncle Clifford waking Lil Murda up like Ghost did to Tariq, okay? Touching on him.
Wake up. I said wake the fuck up. Sleepy time is over, little motherfucker. Let's go.
And we see that Uncle Clifford is actually trying to push Lil Murda away. She does care deeply for Lil Murda, but she is clearly afraid to get hurt. And also, she just wants the best for LaMurda and understands that he has a lot of light and a lot of eyes on him right now, and he's not exactly trying to come out in public with her. So we see that LaMurda is taken aback, and he's really thinking and pondering on this. And we know that he's struggling within himself. So we'll see that at the end of the episode, he will come to himself and accept who he is at this moment. Next, we transition over to Pastor Woodbine, or I'm sorry, Mayor-elect Pastor Woodbine. I absolutely love her. I really hated Pastor Woodbine before this season started, but I'm just going to have to give it up. But we see that Pastor Woodbine is acting silly, and she falls inside of her new mayor-elect chair, and that's really fun. It was funny to watch. And we see that not only is she being interviewed, she's becoming the Chucalissa's first black female mayor. We see that Mercedes is looking at her, and it's honestly a nice touch with Mercedes because she is accepting of who her mom is. But, you know, of course, she's still salty that she became the mayor. Mercedes is then interrupted by the FedEx driver, who she receives a huge package, and it comes from Miss Farah. Miss Farah had put up this big poster with Mercedes' face on it, of course, from the Mercedes experience, and a $30,000 check, you guys. It seems that Mercedes is winning, and she's smiling from ear to ear because I think she really just thought that she looked great in the picture, which it is a beautiful picture, but also, like, she's getting money. She did her last dance finally. It's up for Mercedes. Next, we transition over to Andre. He's receiving all of these lovely gifts, aka food, and whatever else these women are throwing at them. I'm surprised they didn't have their panties on a platter. But we see that Autumn Night shows up, and Andre's wife is still there. She's looking Autumn up and down. Autumn has some cigars. And this scene is very important because as I go back and watch it, I see that Andre made a comment about being sorry and apologetic to Autumn Night for what had transpired the night before, and just told him it was some bitter baby mama drama and he's done with that. And of course, Autumn Night is pregnant, and I think at this point she made the decision not to tell Andre about this baby or babies. Let Whisper tell it because she's supposed to be having twins, but I guess we'll see that next season. But we see that when Autumn walks away, she gets on the phone and calls Georgie up. And Georgie is in the car. She is looking fine. Okay, she is sharp, as they say. And basically asks for her money. Not only does Autumn Night say she wants $10 million, but she says that's not enough. She wants $15 million because in her head, they still need the pink in order to build this casino because, of course, the Mississippi rule. Which is, I guess, why they named the episode Mississippi Rule. The Mississippi Rule is a casino cannot be built unless it is built by or on water. And so she is told and broken the news that they are still moving forward, and Corbin has struck a deal with creating the casino behind his house. And we briefly transition over to Corbin, who is smiling from ear to ear because he was going to win this race, whether it was Andre winning or Pastor Woodbine. And they've already started construction over behind in his backyard for the casino. So looks like Autumn Night is one dumb bitch, as she repeated in the last episode. Now let's circle back to Uncle Clifford and Granny Ernestine. Ernestine is back from the hospital, and she is going off and on a tangent about throwing this party because she realizes that life is short and she just wants to have fun. We know Granny Ernestine for having fun, acting a fool, and that's exactly what she plans to do. And we see that she's actually enlisted Big L and Duffy. So, of course, it was not long before Big L was hired back onto the staff of the Pink. And we see that they've brought a friend that Granny Ernestine, I guess, is, feeling at the moment. As Uncle Clifford ushers Granny Ernestine upstairs, we see that there's a pink light that comes on, and it's like a dream sequence where we see Uncle Clifford's mother, and it's basically her coming down to talk to Uncle Clifford about her love life and just telling her to keep going. You're trying to scare this boy off. You're sabotaging yourself. And Uncle Clifford, we've learned and we can infer from this scene that her mom died from some form of disease. I'm going to assume it's AIDS, but basically she was burned by somebody, you guys. And that is why Uncle Clifford is so guarded when it comes to LaMurda. But we cut on over to Lil Murda in Mississippi. Mississippi is going to see him before she leaves out of town for good, and they're just saying their goodbyes. And she basically reminds him that you don't really have to leave this city. You don't have to leave Uncle Clifford. I love their relationship. They really built up this friendship together. You know, she kept a lot of his secrets, and I love that he's really assisting her and just letting her know that he has her back. And we know that Mississippi is obsessed with fairy tales and storytelling, and she throws on her hood, which is like a symbolism for Little Red Riding Hood. And it was at this moment we knew she was going to be screwed by the big bad wolf, aka Derek, who we need to be gone from this show really bad. But we transition over to Mercedes, and she is doing her thing on the pole. She's dancing and stretching and everything. And Pastor Woodbine comes into the room, and she tells her, like, yes, I'm the mayor. I'm just overseeing all of these small businesses, and I wanted to come by and see you. Now, Pastor Woodbine, throughout this entire series, has shown a great deal of, I guess, chaos. I mean, she just has no remorse for the things that she does to people. But it was at this moment that we see a vulnerableness about Woodbine, that she actually does love her daughter, or to some regard, she thinks of her. And this was nice because she basically tells her that I have a lot of hats that I'm putting on. I'm a mayor, I am a pastor, I'm a preacher, but I can't be a mother. And Shell called me telling me that she needs me to watch over Terica. But I think she might be good in your hands. And we know that Mercedes has been trying to get Terica back for the longest, at least for the past few episodes, that she's been serious about getting Terica back. So this was a beautiful scene, just a full circle. Next, we cut over to Autumn Night storming in on Uncle Clifford as she is reading through a memory book of all of her family. And she throws down this newspaper with Corbin Kyle on it, and of course the new mayor-elect. And she's going off because she knows that Uncle Clifford had something to do with this deal that Corbin Kyle has struck, because it couldn't have been his idea. This is not something that he would come up with in order to save the pink. And Uncle Clifford obliges her and tell her, yeah, that was me. Like, you had your time. Here's your $250K. Now be gone. And of course, this is not enough for Haley, aka Autumn Night, or shall I say Lakeisha Savage Autumn Night, a whole bunch of names that Uncle Clifford named off. But this isn't enough. She wants reparations. She wants extra payments and fees added on, because after all, she did devote time and efforts into keeping the pink alive and open during the pandemic. So I do feel Haley on this, but the way that she went about this was just completely wrong. And Uncle Clifford had to remind her that if it wasn't for Mercedes, her, and Big L and Diamond, that she wouldn't even be alive today. And that your extra interest payment is in the form of covering up this body that Diamond had to ship off, to God knows what. And not to mention, the place is haunted. Of course, Uncle Clifford don't really know that, and I guess we'll get to it on the next season. But either way it goes, Autumn Night is kicked out of the club once and for all. She's not coming back. Or is she? So we go into the next scene, and we see that Mississippi goes over to her sister's home, which we realize is the same exact home as she was in high school. And it seems as though the stepmom, gave up the children to Derek. She called up Derek and told Derek, and of course she was being catty and just really evil towards Mississippi in this moment, just talking about good hair. It's clear that the stepmom is not only colorist, but she's texturist and everything else that can end in an ism or an ist. And we see that Mississippi is completely shocked by this and taken aback, and she rushes home to Derek because she knows that Derek is pissed off because he knows that she was about to leave. So when she gets there, she is bombarded by a cop in CPS just saying that she has been abusing these children. And we all know that Derek is the one abusing the children, abusing Mississippi, and taking advantage of his white privilege. Now, what's going on in Keyshawn's head is a whole nother situation. She's hearing the CPS lady say all of these other hateful things and remarks to her. She's seeing Derek side-eyeing her and just grinning this evil grin. And Keyshawn loses it in this moment. She screams to the top of her lungs. She starts beating Derek. And not only beating Derek, she even hits the cop. Now, at this moment, I was like, girl, we should have done this years ago when he first put his hands on you. Now he's putting his hand on the kids. And honestly, she should have told the truth when the doctors first found out that her child's elbow was not only bruised but broken, and it seemed as though there might have been some foul play involved. I don't know why and what drove Keyshawn to this matter, but she lost it in this moment. We briefly touch on Andre. He's going to visit his dad in prison, but he calls up Haley first, and we see that Haley, she doesn't have him blocked. She's not picking up the phone. He turned off her phone, and so he can't get in touch with her, and we know that she is pregnant. And so we do see that Haley is gone. She's in what looks like Chinatown. Maybe she's in New York or something, but she's gone. She has taken off with everything. We then transition over to Mercedes and Terica. They are back home, and Mercedes is just smiling from ear to ear. She's happy to have her child with her, and she wants to introduce Terica to Maine. Now, I don't know why, but this scene was just cringy to me, and it was a little bit creepy because the way that Maine was looking at Terica and the way that Terica was looking at Maine, it was just too much. But Maine goes into calling not Uncle Clifford, but he calls Lil Murda an F word, the infamous F word. And Mercedes is like, maybe Lil Murda and Uncle Clifford, I don't know. I'ma just check it out. So we get to later on that night at the party, and we see that Mercedes is there. Everyone is there, but Clifford is upset. Of course, she didn't want to have this party to begin with, and she's being a Debbie Downer, though she looks fabulous. And we see that her song comes on, Pretty Brown Eyes, I know. You know that's the song. But we see that she's like, who is cutting on this song? This is my song. Who's at the jukebox? And we see that Lil Murda is at the jukebox. He turned on her favorite song, and he's standing there looking at her. She's looking at him. He basically just tells Uncle Clifford that he could not leave her standing there for the day. He really needed to say goodbye and have closure to her, and also wanted to see Granny Ernestine. That was his real reasoning for coming out. He said he wanted to see Granny Ernestine. But we know the truth, that he really wanted to make amends with Uncle Clifford. But Granny Ernestine is excited to see Lil Murda, and I really do love this relationship that, you know, he gets along so well with Uncle Clifford's grandmother. But we briefly cut to Diamond and the Harajuku Barbie. We see that she is standing over there eating her food, and Diamond leaves off because he gets an unknown call. And when he walks away, Big Bone is looking at him like she's ready to cut him. But it turns out that phone call is from Mississippi. Mississippi is in jail, and she's basically telling him, my hair was not long enough. She's still talking in this fairy tale coding, and kind of ask him to, I don't know, take someone out on a police phone. That part, Diamond, come on. Nonetheless, we're moving along, and we see Uncle Clifford in the kitchen with Mercedes, and they're having a talk, and Mercedes lets Uncle Clifford know, that was my last dance. I am done with this, because Uncle Clifford has all of these big plans for the pink, but Mercedes had to let her know that she was done for good, and she should have been done, you know, a few years ago. But it was really nice to see that their relationship still carried on. Mercedes asked Uncle Clifford about Lil Murda, and Uncle Clifford, you know, has a little girl talk like, yeah, that's me. And so we transition over to Roulette. I've been wanting to see Roulette this whole episode. I'm still like, she garners my attention every time she steps on the screen. But we see that Uncle Clifford's friend, that shady one who was about to sell those dresses from City Trends to all of the strippers, well, she goes to Roulette and tells her, I heard about you, and I heard what you got going, and you wouldn't be rocking all of those VVS's if you were, you know, dancing at the club. You're doing something else. You're selling something, and it's not just a fantasy. And we realize that word has definitely gotten around, and Uncle Clifford is going to be upset. If she was upset about the pills that Duffy and Big L was, holding, she's going to be livid when she hears about this whole pimp story that Roulette is, swinging around the club. And as Uncle Clifford and Mercedes are still talking and chopping it up in the kitchen, they come out and they see Lil Murda standing at the bar and obviously wanting to continue on a conversation with Uncle Clifford about their relationship. And Mercedes does the awkward friend, handoff like, okay, girl, I'm going to go. But we finally get this conversation that was much needed between Uncle Clifford and Lil Murda. Basically him confessing what happened the night that Teak died. And Uncle Clifford doesn't want to be the reason why he regrets, this moment of his life. He's finally getting everything that he's worked so hard for as far as his music is concerned. And she doesn't want to be the one to hold him back. And even more so, she doesn't want him to only get with her out of regret and guilt for how he felt about Big Teak. The conversation is going swimmingly, and that is until Big L comes in, interrupting about this account. Now, remember the night before they had the reopening of the Pink, and they made a lot of money, but we see that they are now negative $24. Oh, not $24, $24,000 in the bank account for the Pink. And what we learn here is that Autumn Night still had possession or access over that account, and she ended up drawing all of that money out. So she did end up getting the fees and the interest that she wanted from the Pink. And of course, Uncle Clifford is like, I am done. Big L, where are those pills? I'm going to need the whole bag. And Big L hands her 2 pills. And we can infer, we don't see her actually take these pills, but we can infer that she does take the pills because shortly after that, she goes back to the party. And everybody's having a ball. It is moving slow. The camera has this fuzzy type of quality to it. And I really love the filter that they attach to it. And we see that there are a pair of strong hands going around Uncle Clifford's waist. And who is it? No other than Lil Murder, trying to get his woman back once and for all. Of course, this seals the deal for Uncle Clifford because he's making it known publicly that he wants to be with Uncle Clifford. And he does kiss her in front of everyone. And of course, Mercedes is smiling. We see his mom out in the back. It's just everybody being nosy, basically. So we cut to the very last scene of this episode, and we see Diamond coming out, walking to the car, and we see that he's packing up his car because he's getting ready to run off on Derek, which is exactly what we've been asking for this whole season. But before he does, he is hit and struck over the head by Harajuki Barbie. Big Bone. And not only is Big Bone there fighting him, but she also attained all of these Jet Li skills, and she is with another member of the clan that Montavious was a part of. So we guessed it right, you guys, the Writer Room gang. We guessed it right that Big Bone was a part of Montavious' clan and that she was there to actually keep an eye out and spy and find out what happened to Montavious. So it's safe to say that Derek is going to be coming back for a season 3, but this just means that the actor does an amazing job at delivering the evil that Derek is. So what did you guys think of this episode? This season finale was a little bit crazy. It was slow, crazy, but they did close a lot of chapters for us. Mercedes seems to be the only one that actually won in this. Of course, Pastor Woodbine won big time, but I'm not supposed to like Pastor Woodbine, and deep down, I really do love her. So what do you think is going to happen on the next season? Will Mississippi get out of jail, and will she ever escape from Derek? And we know that Shell is not going to be in rehab for much longer. I mean, it can't be no longer than 6 months. So will Mercedes still have custody of Terica? And will Autumn Night come back and let Andre know that she is pregnant with his twins? Obviously, she's going to have to be found because she took off with Uncle Clifford's money. And speaking of that, is the Pink now back in jeopardy since Autumn Night took off with that extra money and now she really can't afford to stay there anymore? So what do you guys think of this episode? Don't forget to comment, like, and share, and subscribe to the Writer's Room to get more recaps, reactions, and reviews of different shows and movies. Don't forget, this is just one show ending. When one door closes, another one will open. So don't forget and be on the lookout for my recap and reviews of Raised by Kanan, because Stars has us in a chokehold. Can I get an amen? Okay. So I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you next time on The Writer's Room.